everybody, welcome back to Tech Sheck and on to another special session. Well, we told you we want to keep bringing you interesting new concepts and people. And today I have with us a very interesting concept, something that I've not seen a lot of in that region, which is mental health and well-being. And with us today is Elise Valji from Saaya Health. Thank you for joining us today, Elise. Please, let's
Thank you for
jump
having
right in.
me. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for having me. This is a very cool platform.
Well, we hope to continue building on great stories coming out of Pakistan. And yours was very intriguing because it's something I haven't seen or heard of. And I'd love for you to tell our audience a little more about how Saaya Health is helping us stay a little more healthy, especially at times like this.
Sure. So as you mentioned, you haven't seen a lot of this. We're a very interesting mix of things. We're a mental health kind of company, and then we're also a startup. Usually you see a lot of charitable hospitals doing mental health in Pakistan, or you see like psychiatrists. Now you see more and more psychologists, but we're like a mental health startup that is catering to corporates, and we're using technology. So we're quite a unique bunch. Myself, my background is in what exactly I mentioned. So it's in health, it's in mental health. I'm a counselor or a mental health professional, and I've been working in the NGO kind of sector before this. One of my co-founders and partners is a technopreneur, and one of them is an ex-corporate business person. So all three of us come from very different backgrounds, and we come together to make this product, this platform, and essentially make mental health accessible to more and more people. People don't really like to pay for health services, and they especially don't like to pay for mental health services. And in order to have good quality mental health, people really need to pay for it because, you know, professionals charge quite a bit of money. So the way we decided to, you know, give this access to people is by providing it to, starting off, we provided it to different companies so that we can reach all of their employees. They're like thousands of employees, and have the employer pay for it. So that's one of our programs. And we're also directly providing services to the client themselves, so people can sign on and utilize counseling services through our platform as well now. And then we have a school program as well, which is on the more nonprofit side of things. It's a program that I was previously running that I just kind of brought under Saaya Health. And yeah, likewise, we have a few different interesting little projects going on, all under the mental health banner. But I'll let you take over.
Okay, no, that's great. And Elise, I must say I'm very impressed because, you know, my interaction with this particular subject and in Pakistan, even in the Middle East, people tend to kind of sweep these things under the rug. It's like, oh, you know, that's kind of a taboo. We don't want to talk about it. So kudos to you. It's a very brave and bold step forward, and very much needed. And I think people sometimes realize, you know, we're all about physical health. Everybody's like, you know, I got to work out and I got to go do this, but nobody talks about mental health and how important that is. So again, I was very intrigued and very pleased to see this type of effort and how it potentially can parlay into something much better and bigger in Pakistan. But moving along, also, obviously for our audience, you know, the I guess the ephemeral side of it is there, but what about the business side of it? So how does this all work? You know, tell us what's the plan to scale this, because this seems like a challenging project that way.
Yeah, so kind of like I mentioned, right? So we found a way to monetize mental health services. And I think COVID has really kind of helped us because for the last 2 years that we've been around, one university, so an educational institution, signed on for our services. A lot of different companies wanted our services, but they were just kind of in talks, not willing to actually put down the money. And then COVID happened, and like each month we had like 2 different, like, you know, mega companies kind of signing on with their thousands of employees to, yeah, you know, sign up for our services. So it is kind of bringing in revenue now. And so that kind of program is becoming more and more steady. And then we're looking at other ways of also kind of generating revenue through for mental health through different projects. Like I mentioned, the B2C project. Then we have a burnout app. That's something that we're about to pilot. And yeah, lots of other similar kind of plans in the pipeline. I think there definitely is an appetite for this. You may have seen there's like a plethora of apps in the Western world and around the world, like Calm, Headspace, Insight Timer. Then you see online counseling platforms like BetterHelp.com. There's a couple more like that. So it's happening. And I think our niche is to cater to this side of the world, South Asia, the Middle East, and to be able to kind of provide culturally relevant solutions, because that's kind of what mental health needs to be. It needs to be culturally relevant.
Sure.
You don't want to talk to a therapist who has a completely different background than you do, because unfortunately, they're just not going to be able to get you where you're at.
Gotcha.
So similarly, I would say meditations, they need to be coming from a person that can, throw in a bit of language that really like relates to you, something from our culture. For instance, we have the azan that, goes on 5 times a day. We could probably start syncing meditation to the azan rather than anything else, because that's like a culturally inbuilt thing. So just finding different things that work, that appeal to our population, is what we're trying to do. So it's getting access and being able to keep it high quality by monetizing it.
Excellent. So question, going back to that again, is, so let's say, from I know some of the platforms here where they provide counseling services via an app or online. How do you scale that in Pakistan? Is there enough audience, and if not even audience, but are there enough trained counselors in Pakistan to provide that service? Because you want to stay culturally relevant?
Definitely there are, because there's about, so just in Karachi, there's 3 to 4 different training schools for psychologists and therapists. And then in the other cities, there are others. So definitely we have enough supply, and luckily we have enough good quality supply, because, some of our more traditional training schools, their education systems have not been updated over the course of years. But then there are newer schools which are like, okay, they've just recently come in, and a lot of them have come from overseas. They're just like external programs or programs going on in other parts of the world. So they do have good supply. I'm actually trained from one of them myself, but there's no bias. I do hire from other training schools as well. And so, yeah, we do have a steady and good supply. And we also have professionals who used to live in Pakistan and have kind of migrated to different parts of the world. And they also tap into our platform, and they, offer services. So, yeah, it's definitely scalable. And because it's technology, we can have counselors from Pakistan sitting in different parts of the world. We can have counselors from Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad, from the Middle East, which we do as well. Lebanon, we have some from Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is actually recently a franchise of ours now. We set up the same thing through a different team in Sri Lanka. So yeah, definitely scalable.
Good. So just some facts and figures, anything you're comfortable sharing in terms of what you're doing revenue wise, and if so, are you fundraising, and what are you looking for?
We definitely are fundraising. I am not the business person. I am the mental health person. Unfortunately, Sarmad couldn't be here today, so I'm not going to be able to give you exact numbers, but what do you call it? We've been post revenue for the last 2 years. We are profitable at this point as well.
Good.
That's something I can tell you.
Okay, great, good. And well, just moving on to the last piece, and that is, what can the diaspora do to help? What are you guys looking for from us?
Okay, so because mental health is it's such a sore spot, I would say that, not enough people are recognizing how important it is, and how severe the situation is. So for example, you'd think that us working in some of the big name corporates over here, like the cream of the corporate world, you would think that like, okay, these people don't have very severe mental health issues. But the kinds of issues that are coming out of there really show us the intensity of the situation here in Pakistan.
Right.
As a professional, I feel that I constantly see people who are converted, people who are already ready to kind of take on mental health therapy and services. But the reality is that these people are a drop in the ocean, and the much like larger ocean is full of people who do not yet have any awareness, who do not even recognize this is an issue. Um, yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this if you're okay with it, because you have gotten the mental health person here today. You haven't gotten the business person. So I'm going to talk a
Right.
little bit more about this. You said that like people don't really know that this is a thing. So we find that if you kind of just change the languaging around, that it
Yeah.
makes a difference. Because when people hear the words mental health in Pakistan, and actually in different parts of the world too now, um, there's a stigma, right? And then they kind of just stop and they're like, oh my God, okay, you want to have a talk in our company about mental health? No, please don't. Even
Yeah.
that gets people worried. But we find that if you use the right wording, if you use wording that is like relevant to people, that's relatable, that doesn't freak them out. Like if you talk about stress,
Sure.
or with the Pakistani audience, if you talk about tension, aapko tension hoti hai. So
Mm.
then they feel a bit more like, okay, fine, yeah, of course, I experience this. I can talk about this. Yes, of course, I go through this, and we all have it. We all have this inside of us, right? We all have feelings, and then that's how we get them to start kind of thinking about it. So I guess what I would say is, what do we want from the diaspora? I would say that like help this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
help bring more attention and focus towards the topic of mental health,
Good.
because it's super, super important. So I would say send resources back for this like field, whether it's like intellectual resources or whether it's like professionals like giving services, giving their hours, whether it's investment. That's another really important one. If there are people working in like multinational companies, maybe like push companies on this side of the world to start offering our services to their employees, because there's such an intense need out there. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Great. Well, this has been phenomenal. We're coming to the end of our time. As you know, we try to keep these relatively short, but really appreciate having you on. Love your perspective and what you're doing. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And with that, to our audience, thank you very much. We are now going past 45 episodes. We really appreciate your patronage and viewership. Keep liking us, keep sharing, subscribing. Seems like we're really making an impact and helping Pakistan come to the forefront of the tech world. And with that, I bid everybody Allah Hafiz. Thank you.